are these people?
Do you read any about this story, Care Bear?
No.
So I grabbed it because I felt like people are wondering what they could be doing, you know?
Yeah.
And while I wouldn't condone a lot of actions on this show, seeing as how Big Brother is listening, but we will talk about a few ways. So this is over in ScheerPost. This is from Anna Vracar from People's Dispatch. So Spain to block Maersk ships bound to Israel after pressure from activists. Look at that, Collin. Pressure seems to be effective. Who would have thunk?
Yeah.
So the Spanish government has announced it will block 2 ships, Denver and Selatar, operated by shipping giant Maersk, and carrying military cargo bound for Israel from docking at the port of Algeciras. This decision comes just days after the Mask of Maersk campaign released a report exposing the company's regular use of the Spanish port for transferring cargo that enables the ongoing genocide against Palestine, despite Spain's stated arms embargo. Researchers from the Palestinian... Yes, continue.
I mean, I'm not sure. I didn't read the article. Does it say what cargo is in these ships?
I mean, it could be anything. Normally, Maersk deals with shipping containers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So anything that can be within a shipping container.
Okay.
And by that, I mean, like, they can carry... God, I used to know the exact number for a lot of these Maersk ships, but it's like, I mean, hundreds of shipping containers can be on board.
Right.
So, you know, quite a bit. But, I mean, you saw the photo, right?
Yeah, I mean,
you know,
my dad
these
was
are
a
all
shipping engineer for a time, so, you know, so I'm used to containers, but that doesn't help if necessarily, if that could be anything in
anything.
So that, I think that's the point. It's like,
weapons
they can say,
and right.
They could say, we're not going to give, quote unquote, we're not going to give arms. That doesn't mean that they won't. So, I'm getting balloons.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But, just doing the air quotes. But, you know, but that's my point. Well, military cargo. So, weapons. So,
for sure. I think it does go into a bit about that. But researchers from the Palestinian Youth Movement and Progressive International, who contributed to the report, told People's Dispatch that it is unclear whether Pedro Sanchez's administration was genuinely unaware the shipments have deliberately chose to look the other way. What is clear, however, is that since Sanchez has announced the embargo in May, Maersk has succeeded in delivering thousands of tons of military cargo to Israel. It appears that Maersk typically sends 1 ship per week from New Jersey to Spain, carrying around 1,000 tons of military cargo destined for the Israeli military, the report says. These shipments end up being used in Gaza, facilitating the killing, torture, and kidnapping of Palestinians. In recent months, Maersk has transported aircraft parts, armored vehicles, and projectile bodies, much of which has been essentially subsidized by U.S. tax dollars. The shipment also included nearly 300 tons of goods labeled as diplomatic cargo. What? What do you think that is? Diplomatic cargo.
Well, it's the same thing. It's the equivalent of us sending aid.
Okay.
In addition to weapons.
Right.
So, you know, so it's like, we will feed you and then kill you.
Yeah.
So, and that's the idea that with some folks who voted for Kamala, they didn't quite necessarily think about, because they fixated on the language of Trump is going to make it into a parking lot. And I'm like, first of all, it already is a parking lot, because the infrastructure has been decimated already. Trump doesn't have to do shit really to that. But then it's the idea of like, kill you or feed you and then kill you. Like, which would you prefer?
I mean,
honestly, if it were me, just kill me.
Yeah, kill and then feed. That's the thing.
Right. Right. Like, honestly, I don't want to make it sound so cynical, but I'd rather have what Trump is having.
Who are these people?
Hey, look at
thank
that.
you.
Appreciate that. Little $20.
Yeah, I'd rather you just kill me. Don't like no, but that's what I appreciate about Trump. Like, he's so transparent. Like, he doesn't necessarily hide behind his crap. He says it generally with his whole chest and ass, versus the Democrats who try to do good, or at least allegedly try to do, but they do shit too. So to me, that's worse.
Yes.
So yeah, diplomatic cargo is just a way of saying, yeah, it's just to subvert the idea. No, we're sending weapons.
Yeah.
So
diplomatic,
like why anyway. A classification that, according to PYM and PI researchers, is undoubtedly being used to obscure the true nature of the containers. Right. This is one of the several strategies used to evade oversight over shipments bound for Israel. Others include submitting blank designations and relying on freight forwarders to mask the trace of what is being transported.
And I'm sure that's illegal. But
even shadier.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
but I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some loopholes being exploited, but these entities, including Interglobal Forwarding Services, IFS, used by Israel, can get very creative in how they describe cargo. The Maersk report documents such practices and makes it clear that shipments bound for Israel should undergo regular oversight and inspection in order to stop ammunition and other military cargo being transported there. Between 2011 and 2014, for example, IFS managed to transport over 16,000 tons of diplomatic cargo on Maersk ships. According to the report, this designation appears to establish a stable supply chain of goods whose true nature remains concealed from custom authorities and the public. PYM and PI warn. Any questions so far, Care Bear?
Well, the dates. Go back to the dates.
Yes, sir.
So between 2011 and 2014, I mean, we know Hamas has been a thing since then, but like everyone makes it seem like October 7th was when Hamas was a big deal. So
yes,
why are they sending arms during this time? So, and that was under Obama.
Yeah, yes.
So granted, this is Spain, but still, it's like,
yeah, during that time frame.
Right. This is during the Obama era. So of course, you're not going to necessarily hear anything about this under a Democrat.
No.
So that's the point. It's the idea of like you somewhat accept it in the same way, like you're blaming people for voting for Trump, but due to reasons, but you need to point a finger to yourself for voting for people who are complicit in genocide. You're just as bad, if not worse.
We are the United States government. We don't do that sort of thing.
So, you're pointing fingers at people who voted for Trump, but you should be pointing, so it's just the hypocrisy, I think, is just ridiculous. But
yes, as always, it's the God. It reminds me of a now I'm gonna blank on his name. Famous comedian, but he was talking to Jerry Seinfeld, where Jerry was like, it was the hypocrisy of the matter. He was like, really? I thought it was the sexual assault. I thought that was it was over Cosby. That's what it was.
Okay.
Anyway, someone will let me know who that was.
Is let us know in the chat.
I'll think of it in like 5 minutes when I can remember it. He's dead now. Rest in peace. But so Maersk is fully aware of these operations, as well as the nature of the cargo its ships transport, and could halt them immediately if it chose to. The report's authors told People's Dispatch, however, it continues to enable this flow of deadly cargo, fueling the genocide as a result. Responsibility to block these shipments now lies with the governments of the countries whose ports are used in the transfers. Researchers noted that Egypt, Morocco, Italy, and Turkey must all be held in the same scrutiny as Spanish authorities. For instance, after being denied access to Spanish ports, the Maersk Denver sought permission to dock in Tangier, sparking a BDS call urging local activists to mobilize and prevent this. Reports that Mediterranean ports might allow these ships to dock are deeply troubling and moreover stand in violation of several UN resolutions and recommendations. So the researchers emphasize that pressure must continue on the Sanchez administration until it commits to inspect every Maersk vessel originating from the U.S. and carrying cargo to Israel. Given the practices highlighted in the reports, these vessels must be blocked from docking, nothing more and nothing less, stated PYM and PL activists. Without grassroots pressure, governments are likely to ignore public opposition and continue allowing military cargo to flow to Israel through their logistical hubs. What's needed now, according to the researchers, is a stronger mobilization of trade unions and workers' actions against these shipments. For example, in October, dock workers at Athens Piraeus port successfully blocked a shipment of ammunition destined for Israel. Though such direct action triggers government repression, PYM and PI researchers argue that it remains one of the few effective ways to disrupt and halt Israel's arms supply chain. That sentence right there. No?
Well, to a point, I agree.
Yes.
See, I'm mixed on this now because
Mhm.
in theory, yes. But I think the key is it shouldn't be the only thing that happens. This should be in line with other actions that you're taking. So you shouldn't be just going out in the streets and yelling. You should be doing other things to try and affect that change. So I can't necessarily say in this case what they could also do. I think they're kind of I would say there was some success in this case, but it shouldn't be like
McDonald.
a one.
That's who it was.
Right,
Sorry,
but it
my
shouldn't be
brain
like
figured out what I was thinking of earlier.
But it shouldn't be like a one-time thing. And I
Yes.
think that's the problem. It's that when it becomes a trend, and I think especially now in social media and we've seen this since 2020, but really even before that, like with the BLM movement, that once government sniffs out what you're doing, they will do whatever they need to co-opt it to kind of take away the sting away from it. We've seen that with BLM, we've seen that with George Floyd, and I'll argue we're kind of seeing that with Palestine right now.
For sure.
And
we'll see that with
normalized
the new resistance too, as far as whenever that shows up.
Normalized now that there's a genocide going on, which I'm kind of like, what the fuck have we become that we're kind of normalizing it? So
I think the important bit to take from it is the things that they are saying is effective is attacking the money, right? Like attacking the way for the status quo to continue requires the resources. If you can put wrenches there in those cogs, that's where you are. So waiting for those actions to become available to you, then, capitalizing on it, it doesn't necessarily just have to be trade unions. It doesn't necessarily just have to be, we talked about plenty of the stuff as far as, just educating the peers around you, but
it kind of goes along. I have to find it because I saw it in the chat. Someone said, I think so. Yeah, here we go. So Nadio Nostrum said mutual aid does feel like a band-aid. I get that sentiment,
Yeah.
but it, that should be. It's not going to take. It's not going to cover everything completely. Yes, you're right. However, it will provide, depending on what your action is, it will
Well,
provide some immediate need to people
if
who
you look
need
at
it right
Fred
away.
Hampton's mutual aid,
Right,
it was then tied to education, right?
right,
It was, you can get our mutual aid, but you're going to have to come talk to us and learn from us. You know, it's why
right,
he ended up working with like the Young Patriots and stuff like that. You know,
right.
could be wrong. I could get all that
No,
stuff
you're
mixed
right.
up,
No, you're
but
essentially right. You're basically right. But that's the
yeah,
idea. It's that the community will receive it directly because under like a lot of these charitable organizations or nonprofits, they'll take like a certain percentage out of what you might give out of donation to kind of cover their costs, and then whatever money is left, if there is any, will go to the people, and it wouldn't be that much. So, but there also needs to be that system in place depending on what your action is, so that people will not be down and out. And that's what makes it tricky because unfortunately, like our insurance is privatized, like pay, like all that kind of stuff. If you and like a lot of states, and I'm sure this is going to happen now under Trump, you know, um, certain organizations will be penalized for striking.
yep,
So and that's going to be at risk for many people, especially if they need insurance, if they need to get paid, if they need food, and like all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of where
yeah. There's
I
logistics
totally
that
get it. A
definitely need
lot of
to.
that fear comes
Yeah,
in. So yeah, so direct action in of itself, yes, but it has to be tied to other actions so that people will
yep,
feel protected. So you can't just do it and not think like, so that's why that takes planning and like strategizing, because this stuff is long term. That's really at the core of all of this, is that should take strategizing, that should take planning, that should take like resources outside of the duopoly, outside of government, to be able to assist people in being able to feel confident in doing these sorts. It's like if you get arrested, like who's gonna
bail people
bail you
out,
out?
all that. Yep,
All that stuff you need to consider. So like, again, this is why this work is messy, and this is why people are
hmm,
not willing to do it, because it takes a lot of work. It's just trendy and easier just to hold a sign and just be like, hey, I stand against this, and then just go home and
yeah,
maybe post on social media just as like a superficial thing of just this action that you're doing, when the point of organized grassroots organizations is that they plan to do shit like this so that it kind of aligns with ultimately, what you want, the action that you want your leaders to do, that they're able to do it. But you're right. You tap their capital, or I say at minimum, make them scared,
hmm,
which even that is not really a thing anymore because all they have to do is just stick the cops on you. So, you know,
you're gonna
but
have to think outside the box.
right.
That's my
And
thing.
those are the conversations that we should be having because, um, our government leaders wised up. Like, and we need to be several steps ahead of them so that they become scared again. So, um, so yeah, I get the idea of mutual aid is a mandate, and yeah, it sort of is, but it shouldn't be the only thing that you do.
Yeah,
Like, like if you get a band-aid, like if you get hurt, like you might have to do other shit to make sure that your wound is healed or will heal. Like a band-aid may not necessarily just help it. So, um, but anyway, is there more to this or is that
yeah,
it?
but The
Okay.
2 Maersk ships Spain decided to block are not the only ones expected to bring more weapons to Israel, but the full list can be stopped through strong workplace mobilizations. Advocacy alone will not be enough to get the governments to act against the genocide in Palestine. Only a people led strategy with trained unions playing a central role can accomplish the goal. I feel like there are some other options, but it's definitely one of the ways. I think it's a bit like you were saying, it's like the puzzle pieces you have all together. It's the conclusions that are a little like iffy, right?
Right.
Where like, no, I mean, it should be encouraged more of like, I think the spontaneous stuff where options are available to a smaller group of people requires less organizing and has more impact. Me personally, it's just also more risky. So,
especially now. So,
right.
And
Because like we've seen firsthand, organizing get co-opted very quickly if it means to actually make any change. So keeping it smaller and actions that individuals can take, I think, are important. So, I mean, we've seen what Palestinian Action's been up to too. People are going to prison for throwing soup at plastic. So, like, definitely don't take unnecessary risks.
right.
But
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say that, but like know of the risks. And if you're willing to do it, knowing the
yeah,
risks go off.
and
But
make sure you got all your P's in order for that too, as far as if things
Right.
don't go your way,
right.
So
this is almost kind of why being in an organization might be helpful to you in certain aspects, because at least one, you probably would have talked about this anyway, but two, like they would be in a position to possibly help you if you get into a bind. But then
yeah,
more importantly, you're strategizing as to what you can do potentially to prevent you from getting
yep,
into that mess. So and then even with the organization is that you have to kind of vet for yourself.
yeah,
But
for sure. Be careful. That's first and foremost. So, but yeah, anything else?
no, I mean, but it
Yeah,
worked at least, well, somewhat for them.
for sure.
And and more people should be doing stuff like this. But I think again, it's just the idea of like going, in my case, going to Lafayette Plaza. That's where the White House is in DC, and just yell and scream. Guys, they're not there. More often than not, they're not at the White House when you're there, and they don't care.
Yeah.
So, so you need to think. We need to, as we said, we need to think outside the box to get them scared that they really are like, oh shit, if I don't do this, then this will happen to me. That is the kind of thing that we need to
Well, and
start talking about.
I think they're not even afraid of their like actual physical well-being. The thing they're afraid of is their money being messed up.
True.
That to me is the thing. If you can figure out how to, or divest and sanction as much as possible for yourself, boycott those things, But I think there's other ways to hurt those pocketbooks too. That if people think about it, there's some stuff you can actually act on that with,
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see. Talking about these things is most likely why we're demonetized. So you can go scan that QR code on your screen and give us a little dollary dues, help keep the lights on. But if you can't do that, just like and subscribe, hit the share button, send this to your friends that you think need to hear this. I'm sure there's a couple, but also leave a comment. We actually read those. So get down there. Let us know what you think. Otherwise, help us get to 3K. Hit that subscribe button. What are you doing? You haven't hit it yet? What do I got to do? I got to do a dance or something? I don't know how to do that. Go to TikTok. Go find that. But if you don't hit the subscribe button. Jesus. How many times I gotta tell you? Anyway, thanks for watching.